Welcome to the podcast that explores mysterious disappearances, bizarre worldly occurrences, strange phenomenon, and basically everything that's weird. Welcome to the podcast, everything that's weird. I am Anthony, and I'm here with Brandon. We're your host, and tonight we are talking about the mysterious and bizarre disappearance and murder of the Jamison family.
Yeah, Meth Mountain Murders.
Dun, dun, dun. So I am completely unfamiliar with this part of I've driven through Oklahoma, and there's nothing. I didn't even know there's mountains. That's how.
Yeah, they don't look very mountainy.
No, they don't.
I think they're like hills. Yeah.
Yeah. But this family, they lived in Eufaula, Oklahoma. And Bobby was the dad. Sherilyn was his wife. And they had a daughter, Madison.
Correct.
And they disappeared.
Took a drive up into the mountains and...
They did. Never came back.
Never came back.
So the weird thing was, before this, Bobby ran a gas station with his dad. And this is going to come up a little bit later, but they had some sort of riff about where the money was going.
Well, he'd worked for him. He'd even pulled him out of school to work for him.
And there was some kind of promise that he was
there was a promise that if he ever sold, that he would get some of the money or half or something like that.
Right. So then, now Eufaula is a small place.
It is. It's a small place, but did you know that it's there was 2 episodes of Dirtiest Jobs were filmed there? Yeah.
What?
One of them was called Worm Dung Farmer.
Of course. Okay.
And then another one was catfish noodling.
Dude, those guys are crazy.
Yeah. The noodlers? Yeah.
Yeah, you just let a fish bite your hand.
A super powerful fish that sometimes it locks onto your hand and you're stuck underwater, and that's why they have to have spotters that sit next to them
and pull you out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can drown.
Yeah. So, okay, this family.
Also, just for the record, just north, just a little bit up the road from Eufaula is where I think Carrie Underwood's from. And
seriously?
Chakotah. She wrote a song about Chakotah, which is right across the bridge.
Huh.
Yeah. And she even said in her, I saw this too, that in her song, I don't know her songs, but in her song that she mentions the name of the mascot of their high school getting beat by the mascot of her high school. The Wildcats beat the Ironheads. Yeah.
Now, I don't know a ton of people from Oklahoma, but I have to say, in my personal experience, everybody from Oklahoma is super cool. I less than a handful of people I know from Oklahoma. All of them.
It's because they're civilization, real people. Hey,
right? I told you we're cool.
You want to talk? You want to talk for a while?
So this family, they're kind of just living their life. They got some things going on, and we'll get to that in a minute. But they set out for this trip to go look at this. It's 40 acres, right?
Yeah, this property they wanted to buy.
In an even smaller place with even less people than Eufaula, right?
Yeah.
So when they're doing this, now I didn't think this was weird because I saw it, but they have footage of them packing their car.
Yeah, it's a CCTV camera, and I don't know where
and it's stop footage, so it's a picture every, I guess, 5 or 10 seconds. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not continuous video. So a lot of people online say, they look like they're in a trance or whatever. I didn't really see that, but you can watch it and see what you think.
Yeah, but I got the impression that what they release and what you see on the internet isn't like the full thing. Like they didn't get the full video because the police officer actually got interviewed when
I saw that
for that
he's that big yoke dude with the tats.
Yeah, Disappeared was the episode he was on, and he got interviewed when he said that they made about 20 trips back and forth.
And he said sometimes they were taking stuff that they put in the car and bringing it back out, and and that's, I think, probably why people think that they were in the trance-like state. But so Bobby had been in a wreck, and he had been on like a ton of prescription pills for pain.
Yeah, so it was a pretty bad wreck apparently, and everybody had said that it messed him up pretty good,
and this caused like kind of a rift in their marriage. Like, they always say for better or worse, but like,
yeah, when you get back pain, you get grumpy,
and you get lethargic, and he couldn't do stuff around the house, and this was like a point of contention with them. And we'll get into that too a little bit later. But anyway, they pack their car up and they're making this trip, and they take their daughter with them.
And the dog. And they go up to see this property. So when they get up there, they take a picture of their daughter, Madison. Now this, I don't know, this is another thing. Like online, people are like, it looks like she's in distress or whatever. Right. Yeah. They're jumping to a lot of conclusions, and I think even the family members were saying that there's no way that that Sherilyn and Bobby, the mom and dad, took the picture, because they said that she was, and their reasoning is just like, they're like, she was so photogenic, she loved to have her picture taken, that she wouldn't have allowed her picture to be taken like that by her parents.
Yeah, I don't know what that
means. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
I've had my kids throwing fits before, and I'm like, this is hilarious, and taking video or a picture. You know what I mean?
Save it for later.
Yeah. Look what you look like.
That's good. That's good parenting right there.
Yeah.
So they take this picture. It looks kind of, I think it looks fine. It looks like a normal picture. She looks like, was she 6? She's 6 years old.
Yeah.
And it looks normal to me, but a lot of people have their own opinion about it. But anyway, that's 200 yards from where they parked their truck, which is apparently right around where this property is. Okay. So then they go like silent, and nobody hears from them. So at first it's not a big deal, because they're like, well, maybe they're camping, it's like that. People are kind of, but then it gets to be like 4 days, and they're like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So then is it, who comes upon the truck?
They were actually doing searches for them.
Okay, they find their truck. So they had already initiated searches when
when they couldn't find them. They started, they panicked, and they started putting out the search parties, and everybody went looking, and then that's when they found the truck.
So when they find the truck has $32,000 in cash underneath the seat. It has a dog, their family dog.
Yeah. Very malnourished.
Very, right. Like, in bad shape. And apparently, they kept saying it was eating its own feces and drinking its own urine. Like, is it a Bear Grylls dog?
I don't think it was in self-preservation mode. I think it was just dying in the back seat. It looked like a little Shih Tzu. I think all its natural instincts have been bred out of it.
If Bear Grylls was a dog,
yeah,
that's
the dog.
That's the dog.
It was peeing on a shirt and wrapping it around its head to stay cool.
Right. But it's not funny. But like it is, like
It's not.
it's ridiculous that the dog is alive.
Yeah.
And but what is missing, and what is like kind of a key thing from earlier when they go back and look at surveillance, is that they had packed this brown briefcase and it's gone. Now, Sherilyn had also had, was it a 22?
Yeah, she had a 22.
Okay, so they had a family friend, or I guess he was a friend, right?
They
Living
had
with
somebody
them?
that was staying with them. They don't really distinguish whether he was a friend or whatever. They were just putting him up, or if he was renting from them or what.
Yeah, it
He
kind
was
of
just a
seemed
guy
like
staying with them for a while.
kind of seemed like a ranch hand situation. Like he was like kind of helping around the property
Yeah,
type
probably,
of guy.
Yeah,
And he was a white supremacist.
yeah. It turns out he didn't like the fact that she had some Indian blood in her.
I always thought, and maybe this is how dumb I am, I always thought like Native Americans were kind of exempt from the whole white power thing. Am I crazy about that?
No, I don't think so. I
thought like Native Americans were like exempt because they were here. Am I not?
No,
No, I'm not. That's not right.
White people hate them too.
Okay, all right.
Pretty
Well, I don't know,
sure.
I'm not Native American, but
He said I didn't like nobody but whites, and I guess that's enough because she was Native American, so she.
so she told him to get out of the house.
Yeah.
He didn't. She pulls this gun on him, and this is why the gun's important. She
Right.
pulls the gun on him. He still doesn't leave, and she starts firing into the ground, close to his feet.
See, I didn't hear that she fired the gun.
I did. I've heard it several different.
Okay. I didn't hear about her firing the gun. I knew she pulled it on him and told him to get out of the house. And I that's got to be pretty heated anyway to pull the gun in the first place, or she's just batshit crazy.
I've never pulled a gun on anybody,
No.
but I would think that's a life or death situation.
That's one of those things, yeah, where you're like, if I don't
you're-
do this, he's going to act and I'm going to be fucked.
Right. I would think so. Like, I could see if you do that, you shoot because you want them to know you mean business and you don't actually want to go to jail for killing somebody. You know what I mean? Even if it's like a manslaughter, self-defense situation,
Yeah.
you don't want to do 5 years. You know?
Right.
At the very least. She shoots at his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I read and I saw and I heard several different people had said this account from her. And then I read it. Regardless, the gun and the briefcase are not found.
Right.
But their cell phones, their wallets, and everything is left in the truck along with the dog.
Yeah, it's like her purse, his wallet, both their cell phones, the dog, the GPS, maps, and mysteriously $32,000 in cash.
Now they did say that it was like kind of pushed up under the seat.
It was like he hid it under his tools. I think is what.
That's what the mom said. Right?
Yeah, the mom said that. Yeah.
So they search and they don't find them.
Right.
And then 4 years later, some hunters come across the remains of Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison.
Yeah, and it took them a while to identify it. They found the
But it was
bones,
like-
and it was like a
guy, a girl, and a kid.
yeah, it was kind of obvious.
Right.
Like they three people are missing. You know, one's big,
But they
one's a
were
little
all-
bit smaller, and one's
They were
real
all
small.
laid face down,
Yes.
and they couldn't determine right away.
In a row, face down.
Right. They couldn't determine right away what the cause of death was. And Bobby's skull had like a tiny hole in it. And
Yeah.
there's a argument of whether between like the coroner, the detectives, like everybody's kind of arguing about whether or not it's a bullet hole.
Yeah, and it's 4 years of laying out there in the woods, so
Right.
There's going to be an argument there. We'll get to that later, but there's a.
So there it is. $32,000 left in the truck. The gun's missing. The brown briefcase is missing. The family's missing for 4 years until they find them dead. They did come with tracker dogs that tracked them to a water cooler. Is that what they called it? It wasn't a water tower.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is, but maybe out there it's something for livestock. Where they weren't cadaver dogs, they were I forget what they called them. They weren't cadaver dogs. They were I don't know, but since they had several changes of clothes in the car, and they could match that to their video of their closed caption TV, they had their scent on them. And the scent dies at this water tower, I guess, or water cooler is what they describe it as. And then that's it. But then when the hunters find them, they're like 3 miles from the truck. And it's weird because they had 4-wheelers, all-terrain vehicles, side by sides. They had all kinds of people on foot, dogs looking for them. They don't find them, and then they're like 3 miles away.
Yeah, and I believe it was. I could be wrong here, but I believe it was her friend Nikki, maybe, that had went out into the woods to check. She wanted to see the area or whatever, and she said it was 3 miles away from their truck, but that's as the bird flies. If you're walking it, she said it's more like 7. She's like, because it's just like up and down, and you got to cut this way and then cut back this way. You can't take a straight route to where they were.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. As the bird flies, that was like poetic. But now it makes total sense. That's like a dead line.
Right. Am I aging myself?
I thought you were getting heavy.
Yeah.
Like, as the bird flies. But like, you're right. Like, as a dead line, it's probably 3 miles, but really in the terrain, it's like.
Yeah, that's what. At least that's what they said when it was walked. I couldn't remember if it was the mom or if it was the best friend.
Okay.
But one of them went out in the woods, and then they said that they had gotten come up on some vehicles that were all parked side by side with Texas license plates, and heard gunshots and felt like it was a warning shots. And even though they don't scare easy, the whole situation unsettled them. So
I did hear. So I do remember the Texas license plate thing, because there's so many facets to this story, and we'll get into that in the next section. But right now, family leaves to go look at some property. They drive out into the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma, into this mountain range or foothill range or whatever you want to call it, and then they go missing. They find their truck. There's $32,000. There's a missing handgun, a missing briefcase, a missing family, and that's it. They're a huge search party. They look for them. They can't find them. They call it off. 4 years goes by, and some hunters come across human remains that end up being them, and they can't determine the reason or any kind of cause of death.
Coroner was unconfirmed cause of death, because the bodies were so deteriorated because they had been missing for 4 years.
Okay. All right, let's get into the next section. Let's like dive in and see what could have happened to people. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Second, There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them, I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search everything that's weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all of the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today. Okay, so let's start with the weird first.
Mm-hmm.
She was apparently into witchcraft, Sherilyn?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about having seances and our friend, I think her friend Nikki said she'd done it several times with them and other friends, and that like she always took it a little more serious than everybody else.
Now, I've been on a Ouija board before.
Yeah.
Somebody's moving that shit, dude. Don't.
It's me. It's always
all the
me.
time.
It's every time.
100% of the time, right?
If you put my hands on it, I am going to make it say stuff.
Yes. Starts with a B.
They're always like, yeah, they're notorious bad spellers. I'm like, yeah, I am.
But she did. They had like a shipping container on their property, and they the things like written about cats and black cats and like cryptic messages spray painted on the shipping container. And I saw it, and it's bizarre.
Okay, I have some experience in this.
You do? You're a
What?
Wiccan?
No, but my wife is.
Okay, fair enough.
She's a real witch. So
Like-
no,
like
but it's
a-
all serious. She's
Like a
very
fun witch,
spiritual.
like Bewitched?
Yeah. But she's done things throughout the years that, like, even my dad. One year she went out in the barn and she spray painted on the floor, and my dad was like, "I saw some troubling stuff on the floor of the barn in there when I went to," and I'm like, "Dad, just calm down. It's Rachel," But he's like, "She's not dabbling in black magic," He's freaking out. So, like, I get it. Like, from the outside, when people do stuff like that, they're gonna. That's like the first thing that gets brought up. Like, well, I heard they were dabbling in the black magic, and
So I don't believe in any black. I don't believe in magic, period.
like even magicians.
Well, of course, that's sleight of hand.
Yeah,
But like that's not magic.
that's right. I know.
It's an illusion.
Yeah, sure.
And I totally believe in that because I make movies. That's all an illusion, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't believe in any of that, even one way or the other, good or bad.
Right.
But okay, she's into this, and her friends are like, "You're right." She's really into it.
Mm-hmm.
But into it enough to like kill her whole family.
I don't know if that's. I mean, it's just witchcraft.
It's more
anybody
like
that
a
studies
side
witchcraft isn't even an evil person. So it doesn't equate that way. Like, just because she was into witchcraft
she had
doesn't
a
make her
copy
demonic.
of the Devil's Bible. Is
He
that right?
did. Bobby did.
Oh, I thought she did, and she got it as a
Bobby
present.
bought it because they both had said that they experienced evil spirits in their house. And
Right.
that their daughter had started talking to an imaginary friend named Emily, who they think was really just a malicious entity. So he had confessed to a pastor in the town,
right,
that they thought there were spirits in their house, and he even asked weird questions like if he knew where to get any ghost killing bullets and
holy bullets.
Yeah, some holy bullets. So,
right. Which I feel like somebody should sell this.
Now, when I heard about that Bible, and one of the in my research, I finally found somewhere where they had said that same pastor had confessed to him that he had a copy of it because he was trying to figure out what was going on with the evil spirits themselves. Not like he was like practicing what do you call it? Satanism? I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, but like
but he bought it so that he could
so Satanism,
figure out the evil spirits.
Okay, so fun fact about Satanism, because I do know a little bit about this.
Okay. All right.
It actually has nothing to do with like being evil.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a misnomer. It's more about
So it's like Lucifer, the TV show.
I don't know. I've never watched that.
He's the devil, but it's really paints a different picture than this evil demonic being. It's more like the fallen angel side.
So Lucifer in the Bible
mm-hmm.
isn't Satan.
No.
He is, and now it's just he's the king of Nebuchadnezzar, right? So
a while since Christ entered.
Right. So yeah, he's mentioned, but he is not at all Satan, and it's been like kind of spun that he is.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like Mary. It's kind of like Mary Magdalene being a prostitute.
Yeah, when she was probably a prophet.
Right, and like she's been spun as a prostitute, where in actuality it never says she's a prostitute.
She's probably an apostle.
Well, right. There's a Dogma. Did you ever see Dogma?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But no, there's actually a Gospel of Mary,
mm-hmm.
where and it's been buried forever, because a lot of people don't understand that like the Bible was contrived. There used to be all these holy books, and there was all these different sects of like Christianity, and then like Constantine made one Bible, and that's like the Bible we read. And they always defend it, like what else?
Until King James wanted to get divorced, and then
right, he made his own. Right, and then the Mormons are like, "Fuck that, we'll make ours." And
Scientologists is like, "We're just gonna make this shit up." Fuck it.
And Islam's like, "We're gonna go in a different direction." But truthfully, like,
wow, we just pissed off a bunch of people, probably.
Oh, probably, I'm sure. But like the Satanist Bible really doesn't say anything about being even mean to people. It's more like self-discovery. I know I'm like totally generalizing it,
right?
But it's like the power of yourself is the focus of the Satan Bible. All right, so okay, but that's found in their house. All right. Also, his dad's a bad guy.
Yeah, apparently.
So his dad has many ties to really unsavory characters.
Mm-hmm.
They run this gas station together, and his dad's a dick.
Yeah.
So his dad never does include him in any money that's given to him. In fact, that's like the source of this problem. And he says that he skimmed like $10,000 in profits.
Yeah, but he had an ongoing, I thought, legal battle with him over this money.
Right.
And they had actually gone and filed a restraining order against their dad because he had, according to them, he had threatened their lives, all three of them, Bobby
and
Cheryl,
the mom, right, and his mom, right.
So they went and filed a restraining order against him, and in the restraining order, Bobby had put that his dad, he had ties to prostitution,
Right.
meth, and the Mexican mafia.
Okay, so meth is like rampant there.
It's anywhere it's anywhere like that. It seems like
Anywhere where there's mountains
poor white
or
folks.
desert. Although where we're from, it's heroin.
Was
They're
it
like-
Dave
they're
Chappelle
like,
said? He
meth.
goes, "There's one thing that white people love. It's meth." It is, and that's
true.
pretty funny too, because he said it like the crack epidemic with black people, and he was like, he's like, remember when you guys were just like, just say no, just say no. It's like, I get it now though, because I don't give a fuck either. But yeah, it's a lot of those small towns like that, because those guys can set up shop out in these mountains and not be seen by prying eyes. And
Well, I mean, like a base standpoint, we're from a very small town, and like, what is there to do?
meth.
Well,
No, I'm just kidding.
right, there is. But like, really, if you're a teenager and you're looking to get into some fun, where we're from, it's basically bonfire, like parties,
Yeah,
and
parties in fields,
drinking
and stuff.
Drinking and stuff, right?
Four-wheeling.
And they always say like pot's a gateway drug. No, it's not. Alcohol is a gateway drug.
I never bought that. It's a
either.
gateway drug because we put it in the gateway position.
Right. But alcohol, for real,
Sure.
is the gateway drug. That I
drank
nobody-
alcohol and
nobody's sitting around
prescription drugs
smoking
before.
pot and like, hey, we should get some crack. It's
This
always
stuff's just not doing it anymore.
right. It's always people that are fucking hammered,
Right.
and they're like, I want to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this area of the country is really hit by it, and it seems like it, whatever, epidemic, whatever. But he kind of throws this onto his son, like, he's a terrible guy. He got in this car wreck, which I guess that's two different speeds, though, right? You have painkillers that you take because of your wreck.
Yeah.
And then you have like speed, and we're gonna get into this in just a second. But the one part of the marriage was she said he's a hermit and he don't want to do anything.
Right.
But if he's doing crystal meth, doesn't that amp you up to do stuff?
Yeah, you're gonna want to do a lot of things.
You're gonna work on cars. You're
Clean
gonna
your house.
right, right. You got some projects.
Yep.
But he does this. That's not his personality. So I don't know if that's like unfounded or not. But it's that lawsuit ends up getting dismissed.
Yeah.
But his dad's problems are really bad because like the mom ends up moving in with him, right? And then there's like the dad threatens to kill him.
Yeah, he threatened to kill all three of them. Apparently.
Jesus Christ. Right. So, okay. There's the dad. Now, they had a property worth $300,000.
I didn't think they didn't. It wasn't worth shit because I think they were about to lose it.
They were in foreclosure, but the property had a bunch of timeshares attached to it. So they're both on disability at the time.
Right. Neither one of them were working. They were
Neither
both
one
on
of them were.
disability.
They're both on disability.
She was bipolar, so she was on medication that she
Right.
didn't take all the time also. So
Right.
that put a strain on the marriage as well.
Mm-hmm. And you know how that is. Like, maybe you don't, but like, if you've ever been around somebody that is and they're on medication, so this is what happens. So do I. But like, when they're on it, here's what happens. They're on it, and they're like in a zombie state for a while. They're like lethargic, and then it kicks in to where it regulates, and they're even.
Yeah.
And they're very logical to talk to. And then they're like, I don't need to take it anymore.
Yeah, and
then they stopped taking it. They
Right.
stopped taking it, and then it's like bananas.
Yeah.
And that from everything I've read with her, that was like textbook. Somebody that had bipolar that didn't take their medication regularly, is because all of your levels go up, your dopamine levels, your serotonin, all that shit is out of whack, right?
Right.
And then it takes a minute. It takes a minute to like get it regulated.
Yeah.
To where a normal person functions, you know? And then when you get there, you're like, I'm fixed.
Yeah,
but you're not.
One of the articles I read was actually written by a guy that admitted that he was bipolar, and he said, "I know exactly what it's like to miss your medication. It's very dangerous to do that because you don't know what direction you could head." And he was saying that with bipolar disorder, that is exactly kind of what you were alluding to, that you get this sense that you don't need your medication
right
once you start feeling good, and
right.
And he goes, and that's one of the big problems. So,
and it's a yo-yo too. They constantly fuck with it. They up and down, more or less. You know, they mess with your dosage. It's got to be exhausting from that perspective,
mm-hmm.
but like, there's a reason why, you know, for whatever, whether it's trauma or whether it's just genetic or whatever, your body doesn't produce what chemicals you need to make like that cocktail of like a regular person.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while to regulate those chemicals, and if you don't regulate those chemicals, then, you know, everything's out of whack. Mm-hmm. And people do go crazy for that. However, does that mean Sherilyn killed all three of them? I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
And so then you go back to like Bobby's dad. Bobby's dad's an asshole, right?
Yeah.
He like wants to kill him. Mm-hmm. He like dicked him out of money. He like has all these ties to criminals, but then Bobby's dad dies like 2 weeks after.
That's 2 months.
Okay, 2 months after the search in a nursing home.
Yeah, and I believe it was Bobby's uncle, who would have been Bob's dad or Bob's brother. Bob
Senior.
Yeah, Bob Senior's brother had said that he was, at the time of the disappearance, he was either in a nursing home or he was unable to like get out of bed. You know, he was like so much so
that the cops like really looked into his dad. Yeah, and they're like, they dismissed him.
They said ironclad, I think.
They said he didn't even have the ability to set up something like this.
Right.
Okay, so then you have $32,000, but Madison had been involved in several lawsuits where they were suing people. Madison had been punched in the face at school, and they had pulled her out of school, and they were homeschooling her. So they had also had. So where did they get the $32,000? There's a reason they got the $32,000.
Right.
From the house.
And there's that's all, because nobody can figure out where they would have had $32,000. All the closest people to them.
There was something they got it for. Was it the wreck?
They don't know, because they said everybody that was super close to them said they have no explanation for $32,000, because both of them were struggling financially. They were both on disability. She was actually collecting child support from her son Colton,
right?
Who had just previous, like, I don't know, 4 months, I think it said, before they went missing,
went to live with his dad.
So that cut off her benefits from him, right. And that
her child support.
Yeah, her child support wouldn't, which was helping them plus their disability. So they were in
foreclosure, and I used to do loans, I talked about this before, but I used to do a home loans. To be in foreclosure, you have to be 31 days past due. But to be at losing your house level,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be like 9 months. It's 6 months minimum of missed payments. Then they have to get a lawyer. Then there's like an additional 3-month period to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do all that, then they start an eviction process. And even that sometimes takes another, I mean, you're talking a year and a half before of not paying bills.
Yeah, but
To where you're
the
gonna get
writing
kicked
might
out.
have been on the wall for them already, and they just weren't letting on to anybody. Because if you remember when you go back to what you were talking about, they had a storage container out in the yard that had the spray paint on it. Weird
And
stuff.
a lot of people said they were going.
That's
They
what
were
they were
going
going to live
tiny
in.
house, right? They were going tiny house.
That's the storage container they were going to use. They were going to
Right.
buy that property and put that storage container on it.
So
Build a tiny
sidebar. I had a house in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a pole barn, and I wanted to make a tiny house factory, and I was gonna buy contain. No, it's not, I'm not even joking. I was gonna buy containers,
Mm-hmm.
and we were gonna furnish the inside of them. I still think that's a good idea.
Sure.
And we were just gonna crank them out like Crest Homes, because they're like $3,000 for a big one. For the 40 by 20.
Yeah, that's what they have.
So they're like $3,000. You can even get them for like $1,900 if you buy in bulk. So I was thinking, dude, I had I envisioned a whole thing with like a basement, a ground level, second story. And I was talking to my brother's an architect, and we were trying to work out, like, literally you would use everything so you would cut out your windows,
Yeah.
and you could make stairs out of that. Like, there was all kinds of stuff.
Sure. You can stack them.
Dude. And now when I see like Dwell magazine,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing exactly what I fucking envisioned. But like my thing was, I was gonna make, and I'm not gonna put this in the podcast, but I was gonna make, like, you would have like each container would be a different kind of house, so you can mix and match. And you're like, I'll have that master bedroom, that living room, that
Right.
diner, and you'd mass produce it,
Right.
and you'd store them, and then you go put them together like Legos.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
But whatever, it didn't come to fruition. But so they were planning to do that,
Yeah. They were planning on moving into that container on the property.
and I get it. We recently, like, I don't know how big your house is. You have a pretty big house, but
It's decent.
okay. So I moved from a 2,500 square foot house
Mm-hmm.
to a 1,500 square foot condo.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you this. We didn't use half the house.
Right.
I'm not joking about that at all.
Yeah. I got
We use-
a whole wing of my house we don't
Yeah.
even walk in.
Right? So we used the bedrooms,
Mhm.
all the bathrooms, the kitchen, and the family room. The dining room and the front room, all I did was talk on the phone in the front room. That's all I did.
Right.
Like, I didn't even use it.
Yeah.
And then when we came here, we're like, well, it's like, we're losing a lot of space. But then we got here and we're like, this is actually perfect. This is like all we need, you know?
Yeah.
And so I live in a community with a lot of older people, and they're like, well, you already downsized. I'm like, God damn, am I that old? So, okay. So why do they have all this money? So a lot of people think maybe he's into like dealing drugs. Back to the
Right.
meth. But there's really no evidence of that, right?
Right. But that's what they were saying, that they were, one of the theories is that they were going out to meet somebody to do a drug deal, and the drug deal went wrong. But I don't see
And
a drug deal going wrong and you not taking the $32,000 in cash. I mean,
I don't know why you would show up for any kind of drug deal where you go out and they're like, you don't have the money. And you're like, well, I actually do have some money. And they're like, well, how much money you got? $32,000 seems like that would buy you some time.
Right. And I don't see,
You know what I mean?
I don't see somebody going out to do like a $32,000 drug deal and taking their kid and their dog.
Okay. So they were also, the whole reason they were there to begin with, they were buying land.
Yeah.
So I do know this. I do know this. Because I do this. When I buy cars, I take the amount of money I'm willing to hand over for the car. So listen. All right. Say you're buying a car for 10 grand.
Yeah.
Okay. Say it's a 2011. It's 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And say they want 10 grand for it.
Mm-hmm.
You take 6.
Mm-hmm.
You take 6 and you put it in a giant rubber band. So it looks like a shit ton of money, right?
Right.
And you're like, you look at it. Now, if it's in pristine condition, this doesn't work, right? If the guy worked on it like an airplane,
yeah,
like everything that
covered it with the tarp,
right? But if a guy is trying to like stretch the value,
mm-hmm.
you'll find out real fast.
Right.
So you look at it. If it has one flaw, you focus on it. You're like, well, I mean, look at this and look at that. Right. Say, listen, I have 6 grand right now, and you pull it out and you show them. That's how you negotiate, because they're like, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Give me 7 grand. I'll take the 6. I'll give you the title. We'll settle up the other 1,000. That's how you negotiate anything you do. You come like you're serious.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I bought my house, the people died, right? And it was in an estate. She said, well, we're going to have like a bidding thing. So you give me your bid. And I said, okay. Well, I don't even know where to start. She's like, well, like if I get 100, I'd be happy for it. And I said, I'll give you 120 if you stop the bidding. And she said, deal. And it's so dumb because 20,000 over 360 months isn't a big deal. Like, it's not that much money.
Right.
It ends up being like $100, like on your. And then if you work that with the interest rate, you're talking like $60 more a month. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not a big deal at all. So like, I could see where they bring money to flex.
Yeah.
Because that's what people in these small towns do. They want you to know they're serious, right?
Right.
They want you to know that they're ready to do it now. Like we did our upstairs. We were doing the bathroom. Couple Billy guys doing my plumbing, right? And right. They walk out and they're like, "How much you want for that square body?" And I'm like, "You trying to bang my wife?" They're like, "No, your GMC High Sierra." And I'm like, "Oh, right, of course, right. What am I talking about?" No, but I had an old GMC High Sierra that I bought from. It was a '77 GMC pickup truck,
right?
That I bought from my neighbor. He used to pull his horses with it. I said, "You know what? I need a pickup truck because like I needed to like drive stuff around my property, like yeah, branches and fucking dirt and like you know how it is, right?
Right.
And I said I just need something old to drive around my property. It doesn't have to go on the road. And so he sold me this thing for like $500. We had it for like years. It was great. It had like the brights were on the floor.
Oh yeah. Oh,
dude, and the steering it was totally unsafe. The steering was like, and one time I'm driving, the steering's like super. It's got a ton of play in it, right? Mm-hmm. And a mouse jumped out. I'm going 55 miles too fast for the truck. A mouse jumped out of the defrost vent. And I'm like, right? Right? Love that truck. Great truck. Looked like hell. $500. We had the title, right? Guys doing my thing. How much for the square body? And I said, I don't know, man. I tell you what, we'll call the bathroom wash. Give me the title. And I said, give him the title. And Steffi's like, but I love that truck. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Yeah. They just did like $2,000 of the work. Give him we'll find another one.
All right.
Like, give him the title. So I could see where people, show up with flex money, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
that. That
there's
might
also,
be all the money. We're talking about Oklahoma. 40 acres. That's probably all the money.
Probably. And you have a lot of things. You have land contracts.
Yeah.
Where like people will be like, give me a down payment. I'll deed it over to you, but I'm residual deed. So like you can't sell it without me.
Right.
But you can loan against it. You can do all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I still own the property until you pay me off.
Right.
So I could see that also, which is why they have the money. But the problem with this whole case, why are they dead?
Yeah.
And then you have these dogs. They go, and they go, and is it a water cooler or water tower? I never did.
I don't know either. I couldn't find
it's some kind of water reservoir, where like they sent these scent dogs to go track their scent. And they stop at this water cooler. And then you have the bodies, and there's no obvious execution.
No. Well, at least, like we said, Bobby's got a small hole in the back of his head, but none of the other ones have any what they can see because they, like
you said, they're out there for a long time.
They're a long time, and the critters were eating their bones and everything.
Right, and they were scattered. There was a lot of scattering going on, which happens if you're like laying out there for a long time. All right, let's stop there. Let's go to what we think. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search everything that's weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all of the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Second, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, why don't you take the lead on what you think?
Okay, so here's the thing. There was after that episode of Disappeared aired that highlighted the Jamison family disappearance. Apparently, there was an anonymous woman called the mom and told her that she used to belong to a white supremacist group, and that group had a list of people that had the people in the white supremacist group, if they had a problem with them, were on this list.
Oh.
And it was like a taken care of list, right?
Oh.
And she said that those two, Bobby and Sherilyn, were on that list, and that she was trying to remember as many names as she could from that list, because, as she said on her call, that she had searched for some of the people that were on the list, and a lot of them were missing, including them, and under mysterious circumstances is what her claim was. Okay. And so at first she thought, she was really into it, because here's the thing: this woman told, and it wasn't the mom. It was Nikki Chenault, the best friend.
Okay.
The woman told Nikki that about an insignia on Bobby's wedding ring.
Okay.
So she told her about that, and there was a couple other things that she had said that corroborated that, like, she knew who they were, especially because of the insignia on the wedding ring. And there's a good chance that the guy that got chased out with the gun put them on that list. And even though they said that guy had an alibi and there's no way he did it, it doesn't mean he didn't have friends.
So the reason the police ruled out the family friend ranch hand type of guy, he was in jail.
Right.
Okay.
But
and you're right. White supremacists in jail are very tight-knit.
Right. And it wouldn't be hard to get word out. It wouldn't be hard to get them on this list if it did exist, which a lot of this lady's, apparently she corroborated a lot of things. So, and didn't get a lot of things wrong, you know what I mean? But she didn't say a lot either. So, but she was trying to tell her something. Now, I'm wondering if maybe that they weren't given that $32,000 by the dad because he knew he was dying, and this was some
sort of like last ditch, make it right.
Buy me a $32,000 ticket to heaven.
Why 32?
It just might have been the cash he had. We know he was a bad guy. There's a good chance that he had cash stashes. Okay,
I mean? So let's talk about the white supremacy thing real quick, because okay, in Ruby Ridge, Randy Weaver went to one barbecue that he was invited to, and he thought it was like a government separatist group, and they turned out to be white supremacists. And he wasn't really into that. He was like, fine, this is whatever. He's like, I'm not really like, I don't hate black people. But then the government entrapped him because he went to that meeting.
Right.
So there are a list of people, and it sounds like white supremacist, KKK, that's so old school. But truthfully, it doesn't, to me, it makes it doesn't seem crazy out of the realm of possibility that they would keep tabs on people they hate.
No, especially some Native American that shot at you.
Right.
So I mean, it's and there's here and what my theory isn't like a lockdown one. It's not going down one direction. It's just saying that this wasn't, because there was a lot of theories out there, like stuff like they got lost in the woods, which doesn't make any sense because they had a GPS. They could have took it with them. And like Colton, the son, said, he goes, he's back country. You know what I mean? He's deep country boy. He
He smokes cigarettes.
He
had a lighter.
Yeah, he'll know where he wouldn't get lost.
And that night, it was they actually went back into the weather logs. Like 40 degrees was as low as it got.
Right, so they wouldn't.
And I have
either.
I don't camp ever. I've camped in 40 degrees.
Yeah, and nothing. I've camped in snow.
40 degrees really isn't a big deal. If you have covers,
you're right.
Don't get me wrong, it's cold. Like, you're not jumping out of bed, but if you have covers, or you have people around you, you can keep warm, or you can make a fire. There's whatever.
Yeah, if you got the ability to make fire,
right? You're not in Antarctica.
Yeah, you're not that far west. But either way, that now the other thing is that this the word on the street, because the mountains were actually about an hour away from Eufaula.
Right.
So
Eufaula?
It's Eufaula.
Okay.
Eufaula. It's about an hour drive, I think, or so.
Okay.
I kind of Google mapped it, and it's about an hour away. It's
okay.
Southeast. So, but all those surrounding areas kind of say that they know that the meth cookers are out there in the woods. They all talk about it. Like, they do their drug deals out there. They make their meth out there. They which is kind of crazy because it used to be weed growers, but now it's meth makers. But
well, the turnaround. So, Breaking Bad. the turning point in that episode is he says they take like $100 worth of stuff and turn it into $10,000.
Yeah.
His brother-in-law says that to Walter White, and he's like, really? And he, like, that immediately goes into his head. And, like, you know, I know I lived in California a long time, and we can talk about this off air.
Yeah.
Weed sounds awesome. It sounds like you just plant a seed and make cash. But the truth is, people are weed snobs. So if it doesn't look like the best, smell like the best, smoke like the best, they will not pay top dollar for it.
Right.
And the amount of energy that goes into making it almost isn't worth it right now, because they haven't gotten it. That's why, like, the Mexican cartels literally have stopped doing weed. You know that?
Right.
It's not a big enough turnaround.
Right.
Like, they can't flip it fast enough.
Yeah, and all the states are going legal too. That don't help.
Right. And even the people, listen, even the states that are legal, you can go on Craigslist right now. You can buy dispensaries right this second that have licenses that are not profitable.
Right.
Because the market demand and what's out there, yeah, it sounds awesome, but like everything you do in that process costs money. I'll make brownies. Okay. That costs money.
Yeah.
You have to extract from a chemical. If you think about it like a chemist, you have to extract those chemicals from the actual flower. Okay.
Yeah.
There's only a few ways to do that. Like, some people, they'll You have to buy liquid nitrogen and wax paper, so you freeze it and you put it in a press, and it's a water and oil thing where like it'll right, and then
are you teaching people how to make wheat brownies right now?
Yeah, right. And then you have to spin it. Then you have to put it in a centrifuge. I mean, just think about how much money this costs.
Sure.
You have to put it in a centrifuge to separate the chemicals, the THC from the CBDs, like all the things that are involved in that, right?
Right.
And then, okay, fine. I'm just gonna sell the weed. Okay, fine. Well, it doesn't come out like a perfect bud. You have to get trimmers. Those guys are like $35 an hour, and they're pompous and they're assholes, and right? They cost a ton of money. So like, weed has become like the least profitable cash crop because of legalization. Now, crystal meth, and I don't know the ins and outs of crystal meth, but I do know that it's as easy as making it in a Mountain Dew bottle with Sudafed. But like, to make really good quality crystal meth, like Breaking Bad, you need some high-end chemicals, and it's very volatile. And to be able to do it, you need somebody that's like a chemist. You need somebody that actually understands like the bonding of the chemicals and you know, the volatility and all that, right? So yeah, man, I mean, with these guys, I don't know if they're on that level. It seems like,
I don't know, but
if they did, it's at a recreational level.
Yeah, with the couple, yeah, here's the thing. There's so many. It's hard for me to lock into one theory about what I think happened to them, because there's so many possibilities that nobody's talking about. That I think, like, first off, I think buying property out in the middle of nowhere with a shipping container in a meth fucking riddled place, it sounds kind of shady. You know what I mean? Especially since Colton, their son, said that he had just visited his mom like a couple weeks before they went missing. And she didn't mention anything about moving to the mountains. Never told him at all.
At all. Right.
So for that tells me, for my intents and purposes, that property out in the middle of nowhere and that container were destined for something great else. And I think maybe they might have met up with their competition.
Okay. So
when
then
they found out what they were
you're going to come back to the Texas license plate people?
It might be that. It might be that. It could be the white supremacists, but there's also this. I found in Oklahoma's news back earlier that year, on March the 31st of 2009, they went missing on October, was it?
You're a journalist, dude.
So there was a guy by the name of Johnny Edward Smith. 31. He was busted. He was sentenced to 20 years in a federal prison because he was busted for what they said was he admitted he recruited more than a dozen family members and offered them expensive vacations and incentives to keep selling.
Okay.
So this guy's in Eufaula.
Okay, so all right, let's talk
now.
about
Hold on 1 second. There's now when you talk about when people said that they were saying that the family was on meth, right? And the people that were close to him were coming out and defending them. One of the things they said was that Bobby had actually reported on somebody earlier that year, not that long ago, for selling meth. And here's this guy that's earlier that year that's doing 20 years in a federal prison. Now, I'm not saying that there's a connection there, but this is a guy that's offering
where are they going?
Offering people vacations,
Hawaii,
and incentives to keep selling. So maybe the ones that ratted on him, or maybe they were part of his drug ring. They were just trying to get started. I don't know if there's an overlap there, but I'm just saying there's something to be said about that.
Did you ever watch Weeds?
No, I did not.
Okay, so Weeds, you know how like all the girls do like that multi-level marketing, like pyramid schemes?
Yeah.
Whether it's like Avon or whatever. All right, so whatever. She took on one of these, and one of the girls in that, they sold weed. So she had this like network of people. So that's not a crazy idea.
All right.
Because if you have like you follow, you become like a
apparently
like an underground.
Guy was doing it, like he was big time. They said he controlled most of the drugs and
which wouldn't be hard in a town of like less than 3,000 people.
Not in Eufaula, but most of southeastern Oklahoma.
Oh, he was that big?
Yes, he was. He was big time. He was. It says that the U.S. Attorney Sheldon Sperling has said Smith's operation supplied drugs in the eastern half of the state.
So the problem with being a drug dealer is exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's because like everybody wants drugs, right?
Right.
You can get rid of drugs, but like the problem is everybody's like, you can't get rid of drugs and make a ton of money and not have people telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, he got big and
so you're saying that you think that maybe
it could be a tie.
Bobby told on him?
He might have not told on him, but he might have told on somebody that worked for him, and that might have helped with this investigation. I don't know. He might have been just trying to go around and get his you know, if something went public that guy spoke up and ratted somebody out.
So in Breaking Bad, I know it's a TV show, but they to branch out, and one of their dealers got busted, and he's like, "We need like a criminal lawyer," and he's like, "Yeah, we'll hire somebody." He's like, "No, we need like a criminal lawyer," and he said, "You two are terrible." They finally got like somebody that was like a sketchy lawyer, right? And he's like, "You two, Saul," and he's like, "You two are bad drug dealers. You're terrible at it. You can't fucking move your shit. You make the best shit, but you can't move it."
Right.
He's like, "You guys are distributors. You're not drug dealers." And they're like, "Oh, right. We make the product. Like we're the product." And he's like, "Yeah." So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So it could be there could be a link there. I mean, it's a little far fetched, but it's.
Well, how did he kill
him? You know,
he drowned him.
It could be. But the honest thing is that if you're gonna, you don't have to do much to a kid, and Sherilyn wasn't exactly a bodybuilder. She was kind of skinny.
No, he was weak too.
Yeah, but he's still a dude. So you shoot him in the back of the head with her gun.
Okay, what's in the briefcase?
You know, I don't know. Maybe it was more money. Maybe they were holding back money that was supposed to go to somebody. You know, like say that 32,000 was really 64,000, and they had half of it.
Okay, so what's your theory? What happened?
I think that out of all the kind of theories I threw out there, which I still haven't left out the fact that they got up there and it was just random that they went up, because their GPS signaled that they went up on the hill and back, and that they saw that it tracked them up the hill, that they had already went up the hill and back and put their shit in the car. And I think that's when they got, stopped. Now, if it was somebody that was like they went up there and they saw something they weren't supposed to see. They got back to their truck. They followed them back, stopped them at their truck, took them out into the woods. Maybe they had SUVs, threw them in the back of them, and that's why they were 3 miles away, and killed them. And didn't even, in the $32,000 just sat in the truck because they didn't even mess with the truck. They didn't even think about them having $32,000 in the truck. They just knew that they were witnesses to something they weren't supposed to see. And they got had. That was another theory I had about why, because I couldn't figure out why the $32,000 would be sitting there. It's just like, you have to be hardcore to be like, I'm not touching the $32,000 because I'm not going to have any evidence against me at all. The bills could be marked for all I know. They could be, any reason that wouldn't want to touch the money. And you'd have to be pretty hardcore, because if you're just like a fucking meth head or something like that, or a white supremacist, you'd think you'd grab that cash, especially if you knew they had it. So whoever did this didn't know that they were coming up there with cash, to me, or they are so hardcore that it was like movie type shit.
You're saying wrong place, wrong time.
I'm thinking that, honestly, that I think it's a little bit of all the things I said, because I think what happened was, I think that they, and it's possible, my theory was that Dad gave money away at his deathbed and nobody ever got to tell about it. And he had no reason to say anything to him because he died 2 months later. They didn't even know where they were. So nobody was thinking he killed them. So he wasn't going to be asking the dad questions too much. He's alibi for when they were missing. Why would he bring up the fact that he just gave him $32,000? But either way, I think that's where the money came from in my mind. And that if that's the case, that nobody knew about it, and that's why it stayed hidden in the truck. And what they were really doing was they were going out to buy that property. Like you said, they took the money with them to flex, and then they were going to put that container on that property, but they weren't going to live in it. I think they were going to fucking start their own.
Make an ATM.
Yeah, and I think when they got out there, I think they got overheard, or I think they got saw, or I think that they either realized that they were competition, or they saw something they weren't supposed to. But I still think they were up to no good.
Okay.
When they did it, and I think it's somebody that didn't know them close enough to know to like look in the car or whatever, or if they were just like, come with us, and put a gun to their head, and then they drove away from that truck and never went near it again. Because they got rid of the problem, and then they went on their own way.
So you think it's drug deal gone bad?
And I think somewhere,
wrong place, wrong time.
And there's some dude out there right now that as soon as they popped up and said we found $32,000 in the truck, he went, fuck. But it just stuck around and checked the truck.
So I think the exact same thing. I think they went up there to do some kind of deal, and that's what the briefcase is.
Yeah.
She had a gun. They killed him.
Yeah.
Immediately. And when they killed him, you have a girl and a kid.
Yeah.
And even if she has a gun, whatever, you take the gun. However they kill him, right?
Yeah, and I think it might have been they just surprised them, and they took her own gun, shot him in the head, and then was like, if you don't want your daughter to die, you'll come with us. And they pile them all up in the side-by-side in the back.
And they stored them for a while.
Yeah.
And then when the trail went cold, because like they said they were all over that area. Now I know like 3 miles, and like you said, 7 miles more of a trail.
Yeah.
But seriously, they had side-by-sides, four-wheelers, motorcycles.
Right. They'd have to be underwater.
They had a ton of, right. They'd have to be in a place where you can't.
Dogs can't smell them.
Dogs can't smell them. So, like, I tend to think they were into something else. And everybody's like, well, their house is in foreclosure. But that seems kind of textbook to me. Like, if you have a stash of money. Now, a lot of people said he got that money from the wreck. So, all right. They also had a bunch of timeshare properties tied to that property.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when they bought that property, there were like timeshares in like Mexico and all over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tied to this property. So, like, those only generate so much income. Like, timeshares aren't like, junk bonds. They like they only generate so much income. Like, you get 1 weekend a year or 1 week a year.
Yeah.
And like, you spend $100 something a month. So even if you might be able to flip it for like 2 times, right?
Yeah.
So even if they said there was a bunch of them. So even if there's 5, you're talking about an extra $5,000. Well, if that property isn't profitable and you follow,
mm-hmm.
and it's worth $300,000, and you have all this other stuff tied to it. Well, okay, you have like some money come in. Well, it might seem like they're poor, but maybe you just stash that $32,000 like rainy day fund, right?
Right.
Maybe you have a side gig going on where you're selling meth or whatever,
mm-hmm.
right? Or maybe you don't. Maybe don't. Maybe they go up there to legitimately look at this property, and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep.
Like you said. And maybe they actually have money in the briefcase. And they're like, we have money. We came here to buy this property. And there's an extra $32,000.
Right. Because they didn't want to show it all. Like you said, they kept some of it back.
Right. Flex money. That seems like that's what happened to me. It's just, God, it's terrible.
Yep.
That's how they met their fate, but like...
Yeah, because the family doesn't get any answers out of that, so it sucks for them. But I think it's one of those deals where it was wrong place, wrong time, like you said. And there's not going to be an answer to it because they didn't leave enough evidence behind.
No, and I'm with you. Like, I think they got up there, and they're probably outmatched, and...
Yep.
And they probably took care of him first, and that's why he has like a hole in his...
Yep.
skull, and it, if it's a small bullet, I don't know a ton about ballistics, but like, like a 22 doesn't have a crazy impact, right?
It goes in and they bounce around.
Oh, it does.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was in Vietnam, and he said it's weird because like you see people with like a small hole in their stomach and they're dead. Right. And then you see people with like a giant hole in their stomach and they're alive.
Yeah, it's all how the bullets travel.
Right. So like,
but
I don't
with
know.
the 22, it doesn't. From what I understand, it doesn't do. I've heard a lot of people say that to me, and they're like, 22 bounces around. But I always thought that it was like a through and through bullet because they travel up to a mile.
Right.
But I guess I was wrong. But I do know I've seen people that like. He got shot 6 times and it was by a 22.
But right.
But
well, like 50 Cent.
They're like, he got shot by a 45 one time. He was dead.
Right. Goddamn hand cannon.
Right.
And then the 22 is like precise.
Yeah.
But
it's a little teeny bullet.
Right. But like, I have a little bit.
I'm gonna tell you what, you take a 22 out, no matter what, you put it right to the back of somebody's head, they're dead. So
okay, but you would see that.
You shoot them in the back of the head.
Like this is such like a wound to his skull that the coroner and the detectives are arguing about it.
Right, but the skull
that
is deteriorating.
Seems to me like a bird
pecked a hole in it.
Yeah, and if not, they shot him. Where's the exit wound? Like, there's a lot of problems.
There is, but I'm saying if you walk up and shoot him in the back of the head and then you point that gun at the daughter, that mom's gonna do whatever you tell her.
Yeah, but where did it come out the front?
It probably didn't.
Okay, I can see you put it in his mouth.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then you're
find bullet fragments.
So I have 2 schools of thought. Either it was a mass suicide, or they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. The mass suicide would be like, it's not working out.
Yeah, I don't know if
But like, she wrote like an 11-page letter talking about how terrible of a husband he was.
Right, she said some horrible shit in that letter.
Terrible.
But I also
he
understand
feels terrible.
That's kind of how she dealt
terrible.
with her bipolar disorder. Was that when she'd get like
God
crazy, she would write in her
Brandon,
book.
Do you write a bunch of shit about what you want to do that's terrible?
I don't, but I'm not female.
All right. I don't either. For the reason that if that terrible shit ever happens, they can't ever be like...
Yeah. I'm not like my kids either. I don't like record myself doing bad shit and then put it on the internet.
Right.
And they're like, I got in trouble at school because of this. And I'm like, yeah.
You should.
Of course you did. Of course you did. I'm not even going to punish you because you're dumb.
But I don't think she would take them out there to get murdered either. That really doesn't make sense. I think the only thing that makes sense is that they were like, fuck it. Fuck this world. And they killed themselves. Or wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
And when they got out there, they're like, no, we're really just trying to buy some land. And they're like, what's in the briefcase? They're like, cash. You have it. And they're like, well, now we just robbed you. Now we're doing 15 years.
Yeah.
If you tell, boom, you're dead. Take the mom and the daughter, kill them, store them somewhere, drop them off. You know what I mean?
It's also possible that they got threatened by somebody, and that's why they looked all weird when they were loading up their truck, and they're like, we got to get the fuck out of here. Let's just go up to that property and chill
that is
for
weird.
a while.
That is weird too. Like,
and then they got followed,
A mass exodus is weird.
Yeah.
Because, like...
But they didn't pack up, like, they were saying that they kept taking stuff to the truck and coming back. But it's not like when they found the truck, there was this overwhelming allotment of stuff in it.
Mm-mm. Right.
So it wasn't like they were packing up their house and leaving. They were just...
Well, when we moved here, I don't think I took that many trips, and I packed up our entire house. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
Right.
I don't think
it's almost like they were buying time, like they were dicking around,
right?
Waiting. Like it takes an hour to get there. They said they'd be there at this time. Blah blah blah, and they were just kind of dicking around. So there wasn't no reason to talk or be chatty or anything. You were just kind of, do we got this? I don't want to go up in the mountains without this. I don't want to go up in the mountains without this. Oh, you know what? I should take my binoculars. You know what I mean?
It's bizarre.
It's very bizarre.
And I have nothing. I'm inconclusive. I really don't have a hard theory that I'm sticking to. I really don't know.
I know I got too many theories, but I really do think in the end this was not somebody that knew them personally. That it was somebody
and I never heard about the guy from Eufaula, but...
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but it's just odd that there was a humongous drug bust earlier that year, and his family was talking about him reporting somebody earlier that year. And I'm not saying that he did actually report on that guy. I'm not suggesting that. And I'm not suggesting totally that he reported on one of that guy's dealers, which is what I'm saying is possible. What I'm saying is when news hit of this family being found, they started talking about all these things. And one of the things that was on the news was them talking about how he had got this restraining order against his father, but he had also earlier that year had reported this drug dealer. Yeah. And it's like, man, if you just hear that
he's the only one,
and you're doing time, you're like,
the only one with a bullet hole.
You're like, this is the rat snitch.
The whole reason this is a mystery is because none of them else are executed, and they don't even know if he was executed.
They don't, and you know what? They don't even know what the deal is with the flower. Did you hear about the flower? Apparently, on the daughter, on the there was a dried flower, and I don't know how you distinguish that from nature fodder, but apparently it stood out that there was this dried flower on her and her alone. So
I got nothing. I'm completely inconclusive.
Yeah, I think just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that too. And to our listeners, I'm really sorry. We have no conclusive answer for you.
They were waiting. They were waiting right till the end, and we let them down.
We should give a shout out, though. We should give a shout. We're in 23 countries right now.
Yeah.
And if you are so inclined, you can follow us on Everything That's Weird or the @ETW pod. Or you can go to Patreon and be a producer on patreon.com and go to Everything That's Weird, or you can also go to Everything That's Weird on Twitter. And let's give a shout out to all our countries. Seriously. If you're from Serbia, thank you. Greece, thank you.
Yeah.
Ireland, thank you. We love you. We love you, Ireland.
Yes. My wife thinks she's Irish.
Is she?
She knows she's not.
Bermuda, Ghana, Philippines, Portugal, Colombia, Denmark, Brazil, India, New Zealand, Australia, France, Spain, Puerto Rico, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, and of course the United States. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Awesome.
We hope we entertain you, and we're super stoked. And every time we pick up another country, we text each other like, hey,
got another one.
We got another one. So I'm Anthony.
I'm Brandon.
And this is Everything That's Weird.